Lantern showrunner hints at Hal Jordan's replacement by Jon Stewart. Yeah, you should have seen this coming. Come on. So, news that's really quite old. But anyway, the story is Lantern showrunner Chris Mundy suggests the new DC series could mark a passing of the torch, possibly signaling the end of Hal Jordan's run as Earth's Green Lantern. And for the DCU, you just now get introduced to him and he's gone. So, in an interview with Men's Health, Mundy, known for Ozark, True Detective, and Bloodline, says Lanterns will be as much a buddy cop show as a superhero show, yes. But beneath the setup lies a deeper theme about legacy and change. Our show is in a lot of ways about replacement. When should someone step aside? And when is it time for the next person to take the reins? Monday said. That push and pull between those two characters is really important. So there you go. Yeah, there's nothing shocking about this. Even before this show came about, there were rumors about a Green Lantern feature film that was going to be a part of the DCEU. And the story would be a buddy cop scenario between Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart, with Hal Jordan being the veteran Lantern and Jon Stewart being the rookie. And they go through it, whatever the adventure is they're doing, and it would be totally in space, not in some small town, but outer space is expensive. Not that you're not going to get outer space in this show, but nevertheless, the movie would be like that. And at the end, Hal Jordan dies. Now, I think there was some discrepancy that he either dies or it's something mysterious. He disappears. Maybe they could bring him back later for a Justice League thing. But whatever, it cements that Jon Stewart is the DCEU Green Lantern going forward. And if they were to had Zack Snyder's Green Lanterns, I think Jon Stewart would have been the Green Lantern. And of course, he shot that scene with, what's his name? Was Carr was his last name? I'm forgetting his first name. Apologies. But Warner Brothers said, no, you're not doing that. Because we got our own Green Lantern plans. Whatever. But that was the deal. That would have been the Green Lantern that would have shown up in Justice League 3, I believe. And there you go. You establish that. In between that, you have the Green Lantern film that introduces who he is and establishes all that. And I believe part of the idea was that he was actually coming to Earth looking for Hal Jordan, and he was lost. So maybe they were going to go with him disappearing, not necessarily dying, that sort of thing. And then comes to find the Earth completely dominated by Darkseid and all that sort of thing. So that would have been the plot. But anyway, that basic template of buddy cop and Jon Stewart becoming the Green Lantern. Now, a lot of this goes back to the template set by the 90s Justice League cartoon, So they went with Jon Stewart. Hal Jordan wasn't even mentioned. They had a time-warped episode where Hal Jordan's Green Lantern appeared, but none of them knew who he was. So in that version, it was just Jon Stewart, And you know why? It predates DEI and stuff, but the concepts and whatnot was there. The idea of having a total white cast. Oh, you can't do that. So even back in the Super Friends, they created characters that were to be minorities and whatnot, not be all white and whatnot. So you had your tokens. The understood the intent or whatnot, but ultimately it reduces the characters to superficial elements, and that's part of the problem there. Now, for the business of Green Lantern and whatnot, it's a Green Lantern Corps. There can be multiple members of it and all of that, and ultimately Hal Jordan was one space cop among God knows how many. But the other core members were all these aliens and whatnot. At this point, they keep making I don't know how many human Green Lanterns they've got, and it's just like, well, you need to at least have the other aliens have multiple aliens from a specific planet and species or what have you be Green Lantern members as well, rather than just one from each, planet or what have you. I think by now they've done something akin to that, but not like it is for human beings, So, yeah, when you reduce it to just that, and that's what it ultimately comes down to, it's just bad. It's not a good thing to do. But here we are. And so John Stewart, still what that template holds. John Stewart will be the Green Lantern of the DCU. So, yeah, I've always thought, especially when they cast a much older man to be Hal Jordan. So in the DCU, Hal Jordan's been Green Lantern going off in space adventures, I guess, all these years, with no Justice League, no interaction with Superman and Batman and all that sort of stuff, which is not his story. Those elements are part of his story. But, well, in this version, it'll just be John Stewart having those stories, Okay, so Monday described John Stewart's strength comes from composure rather than aggression. So much of the power that John is by not taking the bait, understanding that you lose your power if you're yelling and screaming. He knows he belongs, so he doesn't have to overcompensate. He praised Aaron Pierre's performance as embodying both power and empathy. He's big. He's an intimidating presence just physically, but there's a softness to him too. There's a thoughtfulness. You can't teach that. Well, life can, and that's what I'll get to it. But there's a powerful story and John Stewart in the comics. Sounds like they're not going to do it. Pierre spoke about the responsibility of portraying a character who means so much to fans, especially Black audiences. Okay, for me, the character just radiates strength and fortitude, that hunger to be the best version of yourself, which also holds you accountable when you're not. Monday added that Pierre took the role seriously, understanding its cultural importance. Aaron felt the responsibility, especially as a Black man playing this particular role, to make sure he really understood him and brought him to life. The character is Black. That's why you hire a Black man to play the character. I think fans will see the reverence he has for it. With lanterns framed around legacy and replacement, and with Pierre's John Stewart positioned as the emotional center, the series may represent a major DCU shift, one where Hal Jordan's story ends and a new generation takes over. Which means you don't get a Hal Jordan story. You get snippets of it, and then he's dead. One of the greatest character building stories for John Stewart was in Cosmic Odyssey. John Stewart, he was a Marine. He gets the power ring. He had a lot of, and now back in his introduction was a bit of a tokenizing thing. He's a Black man, and Hal Jordan's white, and all that sort of stuff. When you're talking about this cosmic power and the universe, you think that would rather expand one's vision of creation and life and everything. But nevertheless, that was the initial thing. But ultimately, he becomes this character who's got this incredible power, and of course, he's a human being. It's going to have a massive impact on him. He becomes a bit arrogant. He thinks he's hot stuff. And he goes on this mission in Cosmic Odyssey and no one's going to tell him how to do it. I got this. I know what I'm doing. And despite all the signs that this wasn't going to go well, he figured he had it. And in the end, he didn't. And an entire planet with its entire population got wiped out, and he is just broken, shattered. So it's the combination of power and the arrogance that it can produce, and those are the consequences. And this was the ultimate consequence that he suffered, and then he has to crawl back. He has to build himself from that and learn from it, and it makes him a more It's one of those things about life. You suffer some trauma, but you're a sadder, but yet wiser man. And certainly that is the case. It'll haunt him forever. But he learned so much, and it makes him a more wiser, more powerful hero going forward on that. So that when you get a more serious John Stewart, wow, boy, you understand that. You understand that background that really built the spine of John Stewart. And that's his story. That's, there's things of Hal Jordan that broke him and all that. Of course, to go to the Parallax story and all that. But that's Hal Jordan. John Stewart's story is John Stewart. So they're going to go through with this. They're just going to scrap Hal Jordan, basically. They'll give him a nod in the show and try to put that up as a send-off for him or what have you. But you got John Stewart. All right, going forward, you think they're going to tell that story? Oh, my God, showing a black man is flawed? Good Lord, how could we possibly do that? Well, he's a human being. And of course, how does he deal with this? That's the nature of his heroism. So they're going to rob that, probably. My guess would be they would take that away from John Stewart and give him Hal Jordan stories. Yeah. For whatever time they have, whether DCU lasts long enough. If there's a season 2 of Lanterns and it's, John Stewart on another mission and all that. Now, I doubt that they're going to hook him up with Carol Ferris, but maybe they will. He'll be a test pilot too. I don't know. That would be really stupid. Because in the end, nobody wins here. Both characters are ruined and trashed over superficial nonsense. Yeah. So that's ultimately the problem with this approach, where you can't even get to story or character development without this, virtue signaling, superficial emphasis for this, political cult-like mindset. But maybe it won't be so bad. Maybe just by accident they'll achieve something here. I am extremely dubious about that. Because even if they were doing a full-on Hal Jordan and, it's just this buddy cop thing, and that becomes the series going forward, Hal Jordan and John Stewart, and they go solve crimes in space and on Earth and all that. The bigger problem for this is Damon Lindelof and Tom King are the head writers. The idiocy of giving Damon Lindelof a DC project, especially after what he did with Watchmen. No chance in here. He can't see John Stewart as a Green Lantern character. He can only see him as a black man. Nothing else. Not even the individual. He's not even described it. And that's Chris Mundy talking. Now, Chris Mundy, yeah. True Detective and Ozark, that was really good. But, hey, the decree is the decree, So, good luck, guys. I'm going to watch it. When James Gunn announced the DCU, Lanterns I was kind of intrigued by this. And then I heard, Tom King, Damon Lindelof. Oh. And now with the state, because Superman fumbled, Peacemaker season number 2 fumbled way worse than that. Now, boy, a lot more is riding on Lanterns now. So again, good luck, guys. Whoops. Wait a minute. DC reverses course. Removes James Gunn's next DCU release from early 2026 slate. Gee, which one of these titles could it be? It's Lanterns. Yeah. A new report suggests that DC has reversed course, removing James Gunn's next project from the DCU's early 2026 slate. Coming off a busy 2025, the DC Studios head is not slowing down for 2026. The Superman director will help usher in the DCU's second year with the upcoming Supergirl and Clayface movies, as well as the hotly anticipated Lanterns HBO series, which was, at one point, reported to kick off the franchise's year. Really? That's news to me. That was supposed to be the first show? Not even Creature Commandos? I don't know. Anyway, well, they may know. Maybe they just mean for next year. Oh, so yeah, it was supposed to be coming out early next year. But now, maybe not. That may no longer be the case. Right, that's what I was saying. However, as indicated by some recent insider information, the host of the Lantern Cast podcast shared an email exchange online via Superman Saga News on X between him and what seems to be a Hollywood Reporter writer. Seems to be? Okay. Suggesting that Lanterns has been moved from the early part of the year to some time later, possibly as late as summer. As part of a recent Heat Vision newsletter from the Hollywood Reporter, writers Aaron Couch and Boris Kitt slipped in a mention that the recently released Peacemaker Season Number 2 finale would be the last of the Gunverse we'll see until June's Supergirl. The finale will mark the last of... Yeah, okay. The Lantern Cast host caught this and decided to ask about whether this meant Lanterns had been pushed. He received a reply saying, "You are quite the eagle-eyed reader. Yes, we expect Lanterns will now come out after Supergirl." Unnamed Hollywood Reporter source. Okay. Lantern Cast says, "That's crazy. Are you guys going to put that out publicly at some point?" Unnamed Hollywood Reporter source. "If you want to mention on your podcast, feel free to refer to what we reported in the newsletter. And if you want, you can say you checked with us to confirm that's what we were saying." DC Studios head James Gunn, who will serve as an executive producer on the Lantern series, previously mentioned that the Lantern series was eyeing a spring 2026 release window. But that no longer appears to be the case, given HBO's packed 2026 schedule featuring the end of It, Welcome to Derry, the Game of Thrones spin-off Night of the Seven Kingdoms, Euphoria Season 3, and Industry Season 4, this could push Lanterns as far out as late summer next year, or potentially even into next fall. Lanterns will mark the DCU's second live-action TV series, following in the footsteps of Gaines' Peacemaker Season Number 2. You better do better than that one, but you probably won't. The new superpowered streaming show will follow a pair of Green Lanterns investigating a string of grisly crimes that take place in the American heartland to the deep recesses of the cosmos. The new series, from former Lost co-creator Damon Lindelof and Low Winter Sun's Chris Mundy, is set to star Aaron Pierre and Kyle Chandler as its heroic duo, Hal Jordan, Jon Stewart. Hey, why would it get pushed out early to the, not pushed out? Well, anyway, of course, at this point, the potential move of Lanterns to later in the year is merely conjecture, and nothing official has been announced. However, it would make sense for DC Studios to shuffle things at this point for several reasons. No, this likely has nothing to do with the quality of the series. Or does it? There have been no signs that the series is in trouble at this point. Production on Lantern seemingly came to a close in early October. Yeah, but then they looked at it and thought, whoa. So maybe they got to reshoot some stuff, you know? Anyway, in a turnaround for a big budget superhero series of only a handful of months feels like a lofty goal. Given just how packed the HBO schedule is in the first 2/3 of next year, there's no need to rush Lanterns out. Big name show? Yeah, okay, you're repeating what you've already said. Lanterns is the only DCU show we know of at this point. You mean for the next year? Well, yeah, it could be. There's a lot of shows. It also means there's not that big of an emphasis on the DCU anymore. Gee, I wonder why. That could be it. Or maybe they got to shoot some other scenes because it's, oof. Yeah. Especially after what Peacemaker season number 2 did. They're like, oh my God. But it could just be that the failure of Peacemaker season number 2, Superman not making the money it needed. They're like, boy, the honeymoon's over for James Gunn, and Lanterns will just get dumped later. And it's just not looking good here. But then again, this could all be BS, and Lanterns will still come out early in the spring, just before Supergirl. Yeah. But it is interesting that, yeah. Anyway, again, good luck, Lanterns, because Lord knows you're going to need it.